right. So uh, you sent over a mountain of research on event and venue management,
Yeah,
and it's clear that you're really focused on this idea of minimizing liability.
absolutely.
I mean, seriously, this pile is bigger than a concert speaker stack.
It's a lot.
But don't worry, we're gonna break it all down,
Right.
distill it into some key insights that you can actually use.
Exactly.
So whether you're planning a massive festival
Right.
or just curious about the behind the scenes world of events,
Yeah,
this one's for you.
for sure.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll be ready to tackle your next event,
You're right.
feeling confident,
Yeah,
knowing how to keep things safe and fun.
absolutely. That's the goal.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a concept that's often misunderstood.
Yeah,
The difference between crowd management and crowd control.
right.
Um, they sound similar,
Mm-hmm.
but you're telling me there's a huge distinction.
Yeah, there is a big difference.
Okay, so lead on me.
So it's all about being proactive versus reactive. So crowd management is like setting the stage for success before the curtain even rises.
I like that.
You know, it's about planning preparation and putting systems in place to guide the crowd's experience.
So like a director mapping out every scene in a play,
Exactly.
making sure the actors hit their marks,
Yeah,
the lighting is perfect, the audience is guided through the story seamlessly.
precisely. And just like a director, you need to anticipate potential problems.
Okay.
Think about crowd flow design, clear entry and exit points, and train your staff to handle different scenarios.
Crowd control, that's when the lead actor forgets their lines
Yes.
and you got to improvise
Uh-huh.
to keep the show going.
Exactly. Crowd control is about responding to those unexpected situations.
Okay.
You know those moments when things don't go exactly according to plan?
Okay.
It's about having the tools and training to handle anything from a minor spill to a full-blown evacuation.
So proactive planning versus on-the-spot problem solving.
Yeah.
But how does this all tie back to minimizing liability? It's not just about avoiding chaos, right?
Right.
There are legal implications to all of this.
Absolutely there are.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Okay, so let's take the case of Gallagher versus Cleveland Brown Football Company from 1996.
Right.
So a sportscaster got injured because he was filming from an unprotected area
Right.
during a game, and the court actually found that the team was not liable because the sportscaster should have known the risks of filming from that spot.
Okay.
This brings up what we call the assumption of risk doctrine.
Assumption of risk.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you might get splashed at a water park,
Exactly.
but you still choose to ride the log flume.
Uh-huh.
You're accepting that inherent risk.
Yes, you assume that risk when you choose to participate in the activity.
Okay, but it's not a free pass for event organizers.
Right. It's not.
Like, they can still get in trouble if they make things more dangerous than they already are.
That's right.
So what if they do something to increase the risk?
Right.
Like the water park puts up misleading signs, making the log flume seem safer than it is.
That's when the liability comes in.
Okay.
A good example of that is the case of Lovie California League of Professional Baseball, where a mascot distracted a spectator who then got hit by a foul ball.
Oof. Yeah.
And the court found the team liable because the mascot's antics increased the risk, even though getting hit by a foul ball is an expected part of the game.
So you really can't be reckless just because some risks are obvious.
Right.
You need to avoid making things worse.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this highlights something crucial. Sure. Even with inherent risks, you need to be proactive in minimizing them.
Yes, you need to be proactive.
And so if we're talking about proactive planning,
Right.
communication seems like a huge piece of the puzzle.
Communication is absolutely key.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does that look like in practice?
It's about keeping everyone informed, your staff, your guests, your vendors, everyone.
Everyone.
And it's not just about telling people where the restrooms are. It's about using every tool at your disposal.
Okay.
Verbal, nonverbal, written, visual, even electronic communication.
So we're talking walkie-talkies for the crew, clear signage for directions, maybe even social media updates for the guests.
Exactly. Each method has its strengths.
Okay.
Verbal communication is direct, but it can get lost in the noise.
Makes sense.
Nonverbal cues like hand signals are great for quick directions,
Right.
especially in loud environments.
And written communication is key for those details people need to reference later.
Yes.
Like event policies or safety guidelines.
Exactly.
But what about the overall design and atmosphere of the venue?
Right.
Wouldn't that also play a big role?
Absolutely.
Like visual communication.
Exactly. Think about how the vibe of a brightly lit family festival differs from a dimly lit rock concert.
Right.
Visual cues influence crowd behavior and expectations.
Okay, and we can't forget about electronic communication.
Sure.
You know, those real-time updates and alerts that keep everyone in the loop.
Exactly. It's essential for keeping everyone on the same page.
But even with all this communication, things can still go wrong, right?
Of course they can.
What are some examples?
We'll take the case of Van Dyke v. SKI Ltd.
Oh.
A skier got injured because of unclear signage on the slopes.
Oh, wow.
And even though skiing has inherent risks,
Right.
the resort was held responsible for not increasing those risks with bad communication.
Unclear signage is practically the same as no signage at all.
Exactly. It defeats the whole purpose of communication.
Right, so it's a good reminder that even the best plans can backfire if people don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. Communication is key to everything.
Okay, so we've got communication locked in as a pillar of crowd management.
Yes.
But who are the folks on the ground actually making sure things run smoothly?
Right.
Let's talk about the often unsung heroes, ushers and security personnel.
Yeah. These folks are your front line.
Okay, tell me more about them.
They're not just ticket takers or bouncers.
Right.
They're the eyes and ears of your event, constantly observing, interacting, and ready to respond.
And their roles go way beyond just enforcing the rules, right?
Absolutely.
I was reading about an usher who spotted a guest looking faint,
Oh, wow.
and they alerted the medical team, and the guest got help before things got serious.
Good catch.
That's going above and beyond.
Exactly. Their attentiveness can prevent situations from escalating. They answer questions, provide directions, offer assistance, and sometimes even just provide a calming presence in a stressful situation.
That's so important.
It is.
You know, it sounds like they're the human embodiment of good communication and proactive care.
Right.
Now, what about security personnel?
Okay, so security personnel.
They're the ones who step in when things get a bit more intense.
Right. They're trained to handle situations that require a more authoritative presence.
And let's be real, having adequate security isn't just about safety, it's about minimizing your liability. Right, because if you don't have enough security and something bad happens, you could be setting yourself up for a lawsuit.
That's right.
I'm thinking about the Roth v. Costa case, where a concert attendee was attacked in the parking lot.
Right.
And the venue was held liable because they didn't provide adequate security.
That case is a perfect example of why you need to consider all potential risks.
Okay.
Even those that extend beyond the main event space.
So you're responsible for the well-being of your guests from the moment they arrive until they leave.
Exactly. You're responsible for their entire journey.
Okay, so ushers and security, they're like the dynamic duo of event safety,
Yes.
each playing a critical role. But there's another crucial factor we need to talk about.
Okay.
It's not just about having a great team. It's about knowing your event
Right.
and the crowd you're dealing with.
Different events attract different crowds,
Okay.
and each crowd brings its own set of potential challenges.
Like a family-friendly fair is going to have a different vibe than a late-night concert.
Exactly.
So those differences demand different approaches.
Absolutely.
The research actually highlighted some interesting examples
Oh, yeah.
of how crowd behavior can shift.
Yeah, like what?
Like a concert in a high-crime area might require a more robust security presence,
That's a good point.
or an event with controversial themes could increase the risk of protests
Right.
or even violence.
Yeah, you need to be prepared for anything.
So you need to tailor your approach based on the specific context.
Exactly. It's all about anticipating potential challenges and adjusting your crowd management strategy accordingly.
Okay, so give me an example of where that went wrong.
The case of Deerheck v. DuQuoin State Fair Association illustrates this perfectly.
Okay.
An unauthorized drag race took place during a fair,
Oh, no.
and spectators were injured,
Wow.
and the court actually found the fair organizers liable because they knew about the illegal activity but didn't take steps to prevent it.
So you need to be proactive even about events happening around your venue.
That's right.
Like what goes on outside your gates matters too.
Absolutely. You need to be aware of your surroundings,
Right.
understand the dynamics of the community, and take steps to prevent foreseeable problems.
Okay, so we've talked about planning communication, the roles of ushers and security, and the importance of knowing your event and crowd. But there's one more factor that can really make or break an event.
Okay, what's that?
Alcohol.
Oh, yes, alcohol.
Speaking of knowing your crowd,
Right.
that brings us to something every event deals with: alcohol.
It's a big one.
So tell me about the challenges.
Well, alcohol can be a major revenue generator for events, but it also comes with a unique set of challenges and potential liabilities.
It's a classic double-edged sword.
It is.
On the one hand, you want people to have a good time.
Of course.
On the other hand, you have a responsibility to prevent alcohol-related incidents.
Right.
It's a delicate balance.
It is about finding that sweet spot between creating a fun, festive atmosphere and ensuring the safety and well-being of your guests.
The research mentioned some guidelines from Miller Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah.
Which I found pretty interesting.
What were they?
They actually emphasized that alcohol shouldn't be your primary income source.
Right.
I've never really thought about it that way.
That's a good point.
Like, if your entire event revolves around alcohol, it sends the wrong message. And it increases the chances of things getting out of hand.
Absolutely.
So you want to create an environment where people feel comfortable making responsible choices.
Yes.
Whether that means enjoying a drink or two,
right,
or opting for non-alcoholic beverages.
It's about providing options and encouraging moderation.
And let's not forget about the legal consequences of not taking these risks seriously.
Yeah, there can be serious consequences.
I'm thinking about the case of Bishop v. Fairlane's Georgia Bowling.
Oh, yeah. What happened there?
A group of people were harassing other patrons, and the bowling alley continued to serve them alcohol.
Oh, no.
Despite their obvious intoxication.
That's not good.
And later, the harassing group attacked those other patrons.
Wow.
And the bowling alley was held liable.
That's a tough lesson to learn.
So it just highlights the importance of having a proactive approach to alcohol management.
It does.
You need to train your staff to recognize the signs of intoxication. Intervene when necessary, and even refuse service if someone is clearly over the limit.
Absolutely.
So vigilance is key.
Yes.
You can't just turn a blind eye to potential problems.
Right.
There's one more element I want to touch on before we wrap up part one.
Yeah.
The research repeatedly emphasized the need for having on-site legal counsel, or OLC, especially for large-scale events.
Right.
It seems like an extra expense.
It can be.
But they're arguing that it's essential.
It can be incredibly valuable.
So tell me more about that.
Think of them as your legal guardian angel ready to swoop in with expert advice if something unexpected happens. They can help you navigate those tricky legal gray areas, ensuring you're making informed decisions and staying on the right side of the law.
So it's like an insurance policy against legal trouble.
Yeah, kind of.
They can advise you on everything from contract disputes to liability concerns, potentially preventing small issues from becoming big, expensive lawsuits.
Exactly. Having an OLC on hand can give you peace of mind knowing that you have expert legal guidance to navigate any unexpected challenges that might arise during your event.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about the distinction between crowd management and crowd control, the importance of proactive planning and communication, the roles of ushers and security knowing your event and the crowd you're catering to.
Right.
And the complexities of managing alcohol sales.
It's a lot to think about.
And we've even touched on the importance of having on-site legal counsel to guide you through any potential legal pitfalls.
It's all about being prepared.
It is.
And minimizing your risk.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of event and venue management.
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of event and venue management.
It's amazing how much we've already unpacked.
Right.
We've talked about planning, communication, and the crucial roles of security and ushers. But before we move on, I want to take a step back and make sure we really understand the legal landscape.
Right. The legal side of things.
It's one thing to know what to do.
Yeah.
But we need to understand the WHY behind it all, right?
Absolutely, you're right.
So what are the big legal concepts every event organizer needs to have on their radar?
Well, one of the most fundamental concepts is negligence.
Oh, negligence.
In simple terms, negligence occurs when an event organizer fails to take reasonable steps to prevent foreseeable harm to someone.
So it's not about eliminating every possible risk.
Right.
It's about taking reasonable precautions to prevent those risks that are, well, reasonably preventable.
Exactly. And the key here is foreseeable.
Foreseeable.
If a reasonable person could anticipate a potential danger, the event organizer has a duty to address it.
Gotcha.
This applies to everything from providing adequate security and crowd control to ensuring the venue itself is safe and well-maintained.
So thinking back to those cases we discussed earlier, like The sportscaster filming in an unsafe area,
Yeah.
or the mascot distracting a fan.
No.
Those were situations where the organizers could have foreseen the potential for harm
Right.
and taken steps to prevent it.
Exactly. Failing to address those foreseeable risks is what often leads to legal trouble.
Okay, so that's negligence?
Yeah.
What else?
Another crucial legal concept is premises liability.
Premises liability.
This basically means that property owners and event organizers are responsible for maintaining your premises in a safe condition for invited guests.
So it's not just about the event itself.
Right.
But the entire space where the event is taking place. Parking lots, walkways, restrooms, the whole shebang.
The whole 9 yards. You got it.
Think of it this way. You wouldn't invite someone into your home and then ignore a broken step or a frayed electrical wire.
Right. You would fix those things.
Right.
The same principle applies to event venues.
Okay.
You need to ensure that the entire space is free of hazards, well lit, and properly maintained.
And this extends beyond just the physical space, right?
That's right.
We saw in the Roth v. Costa case that the venue was held liable for an assault that happened in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's a good example.
So you need to think about the entire journey your guests will take, from the moment they arrive until they leave, and take steps to ensure their safety.
Throughout that entire experience, absolutely.
Okay, so negligence and premises liability are two huge GE legal pillars for event organizers.
They are essential concepts.
But we also touched on the assumption of risk doctrine earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure.
Seems like a tricky one.
It can be.
Okay, so tell me more.
Basically, the assumption of risk doctrine says that when people choose to participate in certain activities, like attending a sporting event or concert, they accept the inherent risks associated with those activities.
So if I'm at a baseball game and get hit by a foul ball,
right,
I can't really sue the stadium because, well, that's kind of a known risk of being there.
Exactly. You assume that risk by buying a ticket and sitting in the stands.
Okay, but it's not a blanket protection for event organizers, right?
It's not a free pass.
They still have a responsibility to minimize those inherent risks and not create aiding or additional hazards.
That's correct.
So going back to the mascot example, even though foul balls are a part of the game, the mascot's actions created an extra layer of risk.
Right.
They made a somewhat predictable situation even more dangerous.
Exactly. The assumption of risk doctrine doesn't give you a free pass to be reckless.
Okay.
It simply acknowledges that certain risks are inherent in certain activities.
Gotcha.
But you still need to be proactive in minimizing those risks and ensuring that your actions don't make things worse.
So it's like, you know, a mosh pit at a metal concert is going to be rowdy.
Right.
But the venue still needs to make sure the floor isn't dangerously slippery.
Exactly. They can't just ignore potential hazards.
But they can't just shrug and say, hey, mosh pits are wild. What did you expect?
Exactly. They have a duty to maintain a safe environment.
Okay, so we've got negligence, premises, liability, and the assumption of risk. Those are some heavy legal hitters.
They are important legal concepts to understand.
But what about translating all this legal theory into practical action?
Okay, good question.
What can event organizers actually do to minimize liability?
Well, that's where a solid risk management plan comes in.
A risk management plan.
This plan should outline all the potential hazards you can think of, assess how likely they are to occur, and then detail specific strategies for preventing or mitigating those risks.
So it's like a comprehensive safety playbook anticipating all the ways things could go wrong.
Exactly.
And having a game plan ready for each scenario.
You got it.
So your risk management plan should cover everything.
It should.
Crowd control security measures, emergency procedures, alcohol management, even things like weather contingencies and potential power outages.
You need to be prepared for anything.
And it shouldn't just be a static document, right?
It shouldn't.
It needs to be a living, breathing guide that you regularly review, update, and adapt based on new information and lessons learned.
Absolutely. You need to keep it up to date.
And don't forget, developing this plan shouldn't be a solo mission.
Right.
It's crucial to involve all the key stakeholders.
It is a team effort.
Your security team, medical personnel, venue management, legal counsel, and even representatives from your vendors.
Everyone needs to be on the same page.
That makes sense. Getting everyone's input ensures you're considering all angles and everyone's on the same page when it comes to safety protocols.
Exactly. It's all about collaboration.
Now, one thing that kept popping up in the research was the importance of training.
Training is essential.
It seems like you can have the best plan in the world.
Right.
But if your team isn't properly trained, it's all for nothing.
Absolutely. Training is key.
So tell me more about that.
Training empowers your staff to be those proactive problem solvers we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Gives them the knowledge, the skills, and the confidence to recognize potential issues, respond effectively, and act as true ambassadors for safety.
Right, because you can't just hand someone a walkie-talkie and say, good luck with crowd control.
No, you can't.
They need to understand crowd dynamics, learn de-escalation techniques, practice emergency procedures, and even master the art of nonverbal communication.
Exactly. Your training program should cover a wide range of topics. Tailored to the specific roles and responsibilities of each team member.
Makes sense.
And just like your risk management plan training shouldn't be a one-time thing. Refresher courses and ongoing professional development are key.
Keep everyone's skills sharp and up to date.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a solid plan, a well-trained team. What else do we need to cover?
Yes, documentation.
Documentation.
It may seem like a tedious detail. But trust me, documentation is your best friend when it comes to minimizing liability.
Okay, why is that?
It's about creating a paper trail of your efforts to ensure safety. Which can be invaluable if you ever face a lawsuit or an insurance claim.
So if something does go wrong, you have a record of the steps you took to prevent it.
Exactly.
The training your staff received, the policies you had in place, all those details that demonstrate you are acting responsibly.
You've got it.
And it's not just about documenting what went wrong, right?
It's not.
It's also about recording what went right.
Absolutely.
Capturing those best practices and lessons learned so you can continuously improve.
That's right. Documentation should be an ongoing process woven into every aspect of your event planning and execution.
Okay. I'm convinced documentation is key.
It is.
Now, we've talked a lot about the logistical and legal side of things, but I think it's important to take a moment to consider the human element.
Yeah, the human factor.
We're dealing with people, not robots.
Right.
And understanding a bit of crowd psychology can make a huge difference in managing crowds effectively.
Absolutely. Crowd psychology is fascinating.
So tell me more about that.
Crowds can be incredibly powerful and unpredictable. One of the key things to understand is that crowds are often driven by emotions rather than logic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Fear, excitement, or even anger can spread like wildfire.
Wow.
Leading to behaviors that people wouldn't normally engage in on their own.
So it's almost like a herd mentality.
In a way, yes.
You're saying a few bad apples can really spoil the bunch?
That's a good analogy.
So it's not enough to simply tell people what to do.
Right.
You need to consider their emotional state, empathize with their experience, and adapt your communication and actions accordingly.
Exactly. You need to be able to read the crowd.
Okay, what else?
Another important principle is that crowds tend to conform to the behavior of those around them.
Oh, interesting.
If a few people start pushing or shoving, others are likely to follow suit even if they know it's not the right thing to do.
So it's crucial to address those early signs of trouble, those little sparks of bad behavior, before they escalate into a full-blown fire.
Precisely, and finally, remember that crowds often look for leadership. Especially in uncertain or stressful situations.
So your staff, particularly security personnel, need to project that calm, confident leadership, guiding the crowd and reassuring them that everything is under control.
Exactly. By understanding these basic principles of crowd psychology, you can better anticipate potential problems, adapt your strategies on the fly, and create a smoother, safer experience for everyone.
This is so interesting.
It is.
Crowd management isn't just about logistics and rules.
It's not.
It's about understanding human behavior and creating an environment where people feel safe, informed, and respected.
Absolutely. And when you combine that understanding of human behavior with solid planning, clear communication, a well-trained team, and thorough documentation, you're well on your way to minimizing liability and creating truly exceptional event experiences.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. Legal principles, risk management plans, training documentation, and even crowd psychology.
It's a lot to take in.
But I want to shift gears for a bit.
Okay.
And delve into a topic that often creates a lot of anxiety for event organizers:
Alcohol sales.
Alcohol, yeah, that's a big one.
It can definitely add another layer of complexity to event management.
It can?
It can contribute to a festive atmosphere.
Right.
But it also comes with inherent risks if not managed responsibly.
Absolutely, you need to be careful.
Right. It's a classic double-edged sword.
It is.
We already talked about the legal consequences of serving alcohol to minors or visibly intoxicated individuals. But what are some proactive strategies for minimizing those risks?
What can event organizers do to create a safe and enjoyable environment without turning into the fun police?
Well, it all starts with having a clear and comprehensive alcohol policy.
An alcohol policy.
This policy should outline everything.
Okay.
From ID checking procedures and serving limits to strategies for identifying and handling intoxicated guests.
It's essentially your roadmap for responsible alcohol service.
Exactly. It's like a code of conduct for alcohol consumption at your event.
Okay.
Setting clear expectations for both staff and guests.
And this policy should be easily accessible to everyone.
It should be.
And your staff needs to be thoroughly trained.
They do.
On its contents and enforcement procedures.
Absolutely.
And remember, training isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
Right. You need to keep your team updated.
On best practices, legal requirements, and any changes to your policies.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
You want everyone to be on the same page, singing from the same song sheet when it comes to responsible alcohol service.
That's a good way to put it.
But beyond just having a policy, are there any practical tips?
Sure there are.
For minimizing those alcohol-related risks?
One simple but effective strategy is limiting the hours of alcohol sales. Instead of serving alcohol right up until the event ends, consider stopping sales an hour or two early.
Okay.
This gives people time to sober up a bit before heading home.
That's a smart move.
Yeah.
It also allows your staff to shift their focus to crowd control and exit management as the event winds down.
It's a win-win.
It's like killing two birds with one stone, promoting responsible consumption. Indeed, making the exit process smoother.
Exactly.
What else?
Another effective strategy is offering plenty of alternative beverages.
Okay.
Make sure you have a good selection of non-alcoholic drinks available. And consider offering discounts or promotions on those options.
Right, because not everyone wants to drink alcohol, and even those who do might appreciate a tasty non-alcoholic option to pace themselves.
Exactly. It's all about providing options and encouraging moderation.
It's about creating an environment where people feel comfortable making choices that align with their personal preferences.
That's right.
What other tips do you have?
Consider offering complimentary water or snacks throughout the event.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's a small gesture that can go a long way in helping people stay hydrated and make better decisions about their alcohol consumption.
It's those little touches that show you're not just focused on selling drinks.
Right.
You're actually invested in the well-being of your guests.
Precisely. It's about fostering a culture of responsibility and making sure everyone feels supported in making smart choices.
Okay, so we've talked about policies, tips for responsible service, but even with all the preventative measures in place, it's crucial to have a plan for dealing with those inevitable alcohol-related incidents.
Absolutely. You need to be prepared for anything.
Right, because let's face it, some people just can't handle their liquor.
That's true.
So how do you equip your team to handle those situations effectively and safely?
Training, training, training. Your staff needs to be able to recognize the signs of intoxication.
So, like, what are we talking about?
Slurred speech, impaired coordination, aggressive behavior. These are all red flags that someone might need intervention.
It seems like it would be a delicate situation to approach someone who's clearly had too much to drink.
It can be.
What's the best way to handle that without escalating the situation?
You're right. It requires tact and sensitivity.
Okay.
The key is to remain calm, speak respectfully, and avoid any confrontational language.
Okay.
Explain that you're concerned about their safety and that you need to cut them off from further alcohol consumption.
Gotcha.
And if they refuse.
Yeah, what about those situations where someone just refuses to cooperate or becomes belligerent?
Right. You can't just let them wander around, potentially endangering themselves or others.
What do you do then?
In those cases, you need to have a backup plan.
Okay.
This might involve calling security, or in extreme cases, even the police.
So it's about knowing when to escalate the situation.
It is.
And ultimately, your top priority is always the safety of your guests and your staff.
Absolutely. Safety comes first.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground with alcohol management.
We have.
Let's move on to another crucial aspect of crowd management: security.
Okay. Security.
We've talked about the importance of having enough security personnel.
Right.
But what are some key considerations for developing an effective security plan?
It's not just about hiring a bunch of burly guys in uniforms.
Right. There's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
So what does a good security plan look like?
The first step is conducting a thorough risk assessment.
Risk assessment.
This involves identifying potential threats, vulnerabilities, and security gaps.
Okay.
You need to consider the type of event, the location, the expected crowd size, and any historical data on security incidents at similar events.
So it's about tailoring your security plan to the specific needs of your event.
Exactly.
Rather than just using a cookie-cutter approach.
That's right.
Okay, so once you've identified the potential risks, then what?
Then you can start developing your security plan.
Okay.
This plan should outline everything.
Everything.
Staffing levels, deployment strategies, communication protocols, emergency procedures, and even specific protocols for handling different types of incidents.
The research mentioned the importance of having a layered security approach with a mix of uniforms and plainclothes officers, as well as technology like surveillance cameras and metal detectors.
Exactly. A layered approach creates multiple levels of protection.
So it's like having a series of security checkpoints, each designed to catch different types of threats.
It makes it much more difficult for individuals with malicious intent to slip through the cracks.
And it's not just about preventing those worst-case scenarios, right?
It's not.
It's also about creating a visible security presence that deters bad behavior.
Right.
And makes everyone feel safe and secure.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
A well-trained and professional security team can be a tremendous asset.
I agree.
Not only in preventing incidents, but also in providing excellent customer service.
Oh, that's a good point.
And enhancing the overall event experience.
They can be those helpful, friendly faces that make people feel welcome and reassured.
Exactly. They're part of the team.
Okay, so we've got a layered security approach with a mix of personnel and technology, all guided by a comprehensive plan.
Sounds good.
But there are certain areas of an event that tend to create unique security challenges, right?
Right. Like what?
I'm thinking of entry and exit points.
Yeah, those are big ones.
Those can be bottlenecks for crowd flow and potential flashpoints for trouble.
They can be.
So how do you manage those effectively?
Managing the ingress and egress points.
Ingress and egress.
Those entry and exit areas is often one of the most challenging aspects of crowd management.
Okay.
These areas are typically the most congested, and they can quickly become chaotic if not handled properly.
We've all experienced the frustration of long lines, bottlenecks, and confusion at entrances and exits.
We have.
So what are some strategies for making these processes smoother and safer?
Well, it all starts with having adequate staffing at those key points.
Okay.
You need enough ticket takers, security personnel, and ushers to manage the flow of people efficiently and maintain order.
And clear signage is crucial, right?
It is.
I'm thinking back to that skiing case where poor signage led to an injury.
Yeah, signage is important.
You don't want people wandering around confused or ending up in the wrong areas.
Right.
Especially during those high traffic periods of entry and exit.
Clear signage helps to direct the flow of people and minimize confusion.
And designated lanes for different ticket types like VIP passes or will call tickets can speed up the entry process for those who need it.
That's a good idea.
And for those mega events with tens of thousands of people.
Right.
I remember the research mentioned the use of staggered entry times.
Oh, yeah. Staggered entry times.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Staggered entry times can be a lifesaver for large-scale events.
Okay.
It involves assigning different arrival times to different groups of attendees, which helps to spread out the arrival flow and prevent those massive crowds from all converging on the entrance at the same time.
So instead of everyone showing up at 7 p.m. and creating a bottleneck,
right,
you might have some folks arrive at 6, others at 6:30, and so on.
Exactly. It's all about smoothing out the flow.
Right.
And making the entry process less stressful for everyone.
This can be particularly beneficial for events with assigned seating.
It can.
As it gives people more time to find their seats without feeling rushed or claustrophobic.
That's a good point.
And speaking of exits, managing the outflow of people is just as important as managing the inflow.
It is. You want to avoid a stampede situation.
Right, because a smooth exit can make the difference between everyone leaving happy and a potential stampede situation.
Exactly. You don't want people panicking.
So what are some key considerations for ensuring a safe and efficient exit?
Well, just like with entries, it's crucial to have adequate staffing at the exits.
Okay.
With clear signage and designated walkways guiding people towards the right direction. You might also use barriers or stanchions to create those pathways and prevent people from cutting through restricted areas or creating bottlenecks.
And it seems like staggered exit times would be helpful here as well,
They can be.
especially for those events with large crowds or assigned parking areas.
Absolutely, staggered exits can help prevent those massive traffic jams
Right.
and create a calmer, more organized departure experience.
So it's all about thinking ahead,
It is.
anticipating those potential choke points,
Uh-huh.
and putting measures in place to keep things flowing smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground with security risk assessment, layered approaches, entry and exit management, and the importance of creating a visible, reassuring security presence.
We've covered a lot.
But I want to touch on a topic that's always on the minds of event organizers, the budget.
Ah, yes, the budget.
How do you balance all these safety measures
Right.
with the financial realities of putting on an event?
That's a great question. It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
But here's the thing. Safety should never be viewed as an optional expense.
I agree.
It's an essential investment.
Right.
Cutting corners on security or crowd management might seem like a way to save money up front,
Yeah.
but it can backfire spectacularly if something goes wrong.
Right, because the cost of a lawsuit, an insurance claim, or even just the damage to your reputation far outweighs the money you might save by skimping on security.
Exactly. It's penny wise and pound foolish.
Right.
So when you're creating your budget, make sure you factor in all the costs associated with crowd management and security.
All it costs.
Personnel training programs, equipment rentals, signage,
Right.
and even those often overlooked expenses like insurance premiums.
It's easy to forget about those indirect costs,
It is.
but they're just as important as those highly visible expenses like security guards and barricades.
They are all part of the equation.
And when making those tough budget decisions, prioritize the measures that will have the greatest impact on safety.
Right.
Maybe that means allocating more funds to training your staff or upgrading your communication equipment.
That's a good strategy.
And it's always a good idea to consult with experts in the field, right?
Absolutely.
Security consultants or risk management professionals can provide valuable insights
They can.
and help you develop a cost-effective plan that doesn't compromise on safety.
They can bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table,
Right.
helping you identify potential areas for savings and ensuring you're getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to safety investments.
Okay, so we've talked about budget considerations, and that brings us back to a topic that's been a recurring theme throughout our discussion, communication.
Yes, communication.
We've touched on this in various contexts.
I have.
But can you really drive home?
Yeah.
WHY effective communication is so essential for successful crowd management.
Communication is absolutely the glue that holds everything together. It allows you to coordinate your team, keep your guests informed, manage expectations,
Right.
and respond effectively to unexpected situations.
So it's the central nervous system of your entire event operation.
That's a good analogy.
We've talked about the importance of clear signage, designated lanes, and even staggered entry and exit times,
Right.
all of which contribute to smoother crowd flow.
They do.
But communication is more than just logistics, right?
It is.
It's about creating a welcoming, informative, and reassuring atmosphere.
Exactly. Your communication should be friendly, helpful, and consistent.
Okay.
This applies to everything.
Everything.
The language you use on your website and social media,
Right.
the tone of voice your staff members use when interacting with guests, the clarity of your announcements, the responsiveness of your team to questions and concerns.
It's about creating a seamless, positive experience that goes beyond just the practicalities of getting people in and out of the venue. It's about making people feel valued, respected, and heard.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to remember that communication is a two-way street.
The two-way street.
It's not just about broadcasting information.
Okay.
It's about actively listening to your guests, responding to their concerns, and being open to making adjustments based on their feedback.
So encourage feedback.
Yes.
Monitor social media, and be willing to adapt your strategies based on what you're hearing from the people who are actually experiencing your event.
Precisely. A feedback loop is essential for continuous improvement and ensuring that your communication is truly effective.
Okay, so we've covered general principles, best practices for creating a positive atmosphere, the importance of feedback.
Right.
Now, while we all hope for smooth sailing throughout our events,
Of course.
it's crucial to have a plan in place for those moments when things don't go according to plan.
Absolutely. You need to be prepared for the unexpected.
You're talking about crisis communication, right?
Yes.
What happens when an unexpected situation arises? Maybe a medical emergency, a power outage, or even something more serious like a security threat.
Right. Those are all possibilities.
So how do you handle those situations?
Crisis communication is all about staying calm,
Okay.
providing accurate and timely information, and managing expectations effectively.
So you need to have a clear plan for communicating with your staff, your guests, the media, and any other relevant stakeholders.
Exactly. You need to have a communication strategy in place.
And I remember the research emphasizing the importance of having a designated spokesperson.
Oh, yes, the spokesperson.
Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. Having a single point of contact for information
That'll
helps
help.
to prevent confusion and ensures that everyone is receiving the same message.
Makes sense.
This spokesperson needs to be well-informed, articulate, and able to communicate clearly and calmly under pressure.
Right, because in a crisis situation, people are looking for leadership and reassurance.
Exactly. You need someone who can take charge and project confidence.
And even when the news isn't good,
Right.
it's crucial to be transparent and honest, right?
It is.
Trying to sugarcoat things or downplay a situation will only erode trust and make things worse in the long run.
Transparency is key in any crisis situation.
Okay.
People are much more likely to cooperate and remain calm if they feel like they are being kept informed and treated with respect.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground with communication.
We have.
General principles, best practices for creating a positive atmosphere, the importance of feedback, and even strategies for handling those unexpected crisis moments.
It's a lot to think about.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to touch on a topic that's becoming increasingly relevant in the world of event management technology.
Technology, yes, it's changing everything.
It seems like it is.
It is a game changer for event organizers.
Now tell me more about that.
It can provide us with real-time data,
Okay.
automate tasks,
Uh-huh.
and enhance communication, making our jobs easier and our events safer and more efficient.
The research highlighted a bunch of ways that technology is being used to improve crowd management. Things like digital ticketing systems, social media monitoring tools, and even crowd density sensors.
Those are just a few
It
examples.
seems like technology is really changing the game.
It absolutely is. Digital ticketing systems streamline the entry process
Good.
and provide valuable data on attendance patterns. Social media monitoring tools allow you to keep tabs on conversations about your event,
Right.
addressing concerns or rumors before they escalate.
So you can get ahead of any potential problems.
Exactly. And crowd density sensors can alert you to potential overcrowding situations in real time,
Okay.
allowing you to adjust staffing levels, redirect foot traffic, or even trigger an evacuation if necessary.
It's incredible how technology can empower us to be so much more proactive and responsive in our crowd management efforts.
It really is, and the possibilities are constantly expanding.
Yeah. What else is out there?
From facial recognition software to AI-powered chatbots,
Wow.
new technologies are emerging all the time,
Right.
offering exciting new ways to enhance safety, improve efficiency, and create a more seamless and enjoyable event experience for everyone.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of crowd management.
It has been.
We've covered a ton of ground,
We have.
from legal principles to practical strategies,
Right.
from communication tips
Yeah.
to the role of technology.
It's all connected.
It's clear that effective crowd management is a multifaceted endeavor,
It is.
requiring careful planning,
Uh-huh.
a dedicated team, and a willingness to adapt and learn.
You've summed it up perfectly. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize that all these elements we've discussed,
Okay.
the planning, the communication, the training, the technology, they're all interconnected.
Right.
They work together to create a holistic approach to crowd management,
Yeah.
one that prioritizes safety, fosters a positive atmosphere, and ultimately allows everyone to enjoy the event to the fullest.
So it's not just about minimizing risks and avoiding lawsuits.
It's not.
It's about creating an experience
Yes.
where everyone feels safe, respected, and part of something special.
Exactly. And when you achieve that, everything else falls into place.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey,
It has.
exploring the depths of event and venue management.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've uncovered a wealth of knowledge, tackled complex challenges, and emerged with a deeper understanding of what it takes to create truly exceptional and safe event experiences.
And remember that the knowledge you've gained here is just the beginning.
Right.
Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the world of events.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into event and venue management.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights that will help you create amazing, memorable, and most importantly, safe experiences for your attendees.
Until next time.
Stay curious, Stay informed and keep creating those unforgettable events.